Dear students, we are looking at the second assumption of the oligopolists in determination of the price. We said if one of the sellers, one of the oligopolists decides to increase the price, others will not follow. The second assumption is that when one of the oligopolists decides to lower the price, others will do the same. Others will follow and reduce the price. Others will do the same. Now, what is the resulting consequence? There is no benefit. There is no advantage for an individual oligopolist to increase the price. Because if the oligopolist raises the price, others will not follow. Customers will run away. And if you decide to lower the price, others will also lower the price, and the consequence will be that you will share the same number of customers. So you will find that at the end of the day, the demand curve, which will be faced by the oligopolist, will be having elastic demand curve at the top, inelastic demand curve below, and a kink in between. The demand curve of the oligopolist is elastic at the top, inelastic at the bottom, and a kink in between. How will it look like? We have price versus quantity elastic, inelastic. This is our demand curve, and here we have a kink. That is about the demand curve of an oligopolist. And that's why some literatures do say that another feature of an oligopolist market is that a demand curve is undefined. The demand curve of an oligopolist is undefined. On this part, the demand curve is elastic, and on this side, the demand curve is inelastic, and a kink in between. My students, let us shortly see on other market structures. When I was introducing the concept of a market, I said we have another market structure which is called monopsony. Monopsony. This is a market structure where you have one buyer of a commodity in a market. One buyer monopsony. It used to be that, for instance, in Zanzibar, the sole buyer of cloth was the revolutionary government of Zanzibar. That is monopsony, sole buyer of cloth. Then we have duopsony, a market structure having two buyers of a commodity in a market. So when you have two buyers, that's called monopsony. Then we have oligopsony. If you have a market in which you have few buyers of a commodity in the market, that's called oligopsony. Few buyers. And finally, if you talk of monopsonistic competition, a market structure when you have many buyers of a commodity in a market. So, my dear students, this is our brief presentation regarding one of the classification of markets called market structures. Dear students, as we approach the end of this part concerned with market structures, let us together write a brief summary through filling in a certain table which I'm going to prepare. Features, and on this side we have market structures. The first, number of sellers and buyers. We have nature of commodities. We have freedom of entry and exit. Knowledge of market situation. We have power to influence price. The first market structure, we said, is a perfect market. Then we have monopoly. Then we have duopoly. Then we have oligopoly. Let us finish up with monopolistic competition. My dear students, you will remember that under perfect competition, we consider number of buyers and sellers. We say that buyers and sellers are many. There is a large number of buyers and sellers. When we consider the nature of commodities under perfect competition, we say commodities are homogeneous. And when we have to consider freedom of entry and exit under perfect competition, there is free entry and free exit. Knowledge of the market situation is perfect, which implies no advertisements. And regarding the power to influence the price under perfect competition, all buyers and sellers are price takers. None of them, buyers and sellers, is able to influence market price. Now, when we have to consider the question of monopoly market structure, the number of buyers and sellers, we have one seller. Nature of commodities, no close substitutes. Freedom of entry and exit. There are barriers to entry. No free entry and free exit. Knowledge of the market situation, it is imperfect. So when you have to consider the question of advertisement and a monopoly, it's not the same as competitive advertisement. The monopolist is advertising for the sake of seeking customers to continue buying or using the commodity which is produced by the monopolist. Regarding the power to influence the price, the monopolist is a price maker. Now, my dear students, I'm leaving you with this table so that at your own pace, you fill in the remaining blanks. You go through what we have discussed, and then you come out with what is the number of buyers or sellers under duopoly. When I was introducing this topic, I said perfect monopoly, monopolistic competition, oligopoly, and monopolistic competition are the market structures which concern mostly on the number of sellers. So you consider on the number of sellers. There are how many sellers? We have said in a perfect market, there are many sellers. So we go through the same with regarding the number of sellers under duopoly, oligopoly, and monopolistic competition. You look on the nature of commodities under duopoly, oligopoly, and monopolistic competition till when you finish this table. That is all we can speak about this first part of classification of markets based on market structures or market situations. Our second item is regarding market types. Previously, we said we can classify markets according to market structures, which we are through with, and we can classify markets on market types. This implies what is bought and sold in a market. When we speak of market types, we consider markets market types can be divided into one, commodity markets, commodity or product market. We can divide into factor markets. And finally, we can divide into financial markets. The product market deals with buying and selling of final products. In these final products, products which are meant for final use are bought and sold. For instance, market for shoes, market for foodstuffs, products which are for final consumption, products which are for final use. We call them as product markets. Then we have factor markets. The factor markets are the markets for factors production. That in a factor market, factors production, land, labor, capital are bought and sold. We have a labor market. We have the market for land. We have the market for shares. These are called factor markets. In a factor market, factors production are bought and sold. So, a market involving sell and purchase of factors production. So this is how we can make the analysis of the market types. So we proceed with the second type of markets depending on market types, and that is the financial markets. Well, the third type of market type is financial market. With a financial market is a market where short-term credits are bought and sold. A market where short-term credits are bought and sold. Sometimes the financial market involves a market for selling foreign exchange. So, regarding market types, you have product market, you have factor market, and you have financial market. Dear students, I would like to leave with you some questions to review. One, define a market and give the conditions for its existence. The second, give features of 1, a perfect market, 2, monopoly, and 3, monopolistic competition. Question 3, part A, define price discrimination. And B, what are the conditions for successful price discrimination? And number 4, how monopoly arises. And our last question is, give ways to control monopoly. Dear students, this is the end of our today's presentation. But before we wind up, let me remind you on the mobile number that you can use to send your questions in case you fall any difficulties. You can send questions through either WhatsApp or SMS through number 0769 04 85 94. Alternatively, you can follow us through Instagram page called Elimika Darasa, or subscribe on YouTube channel called Elimika. Thank you for your time. We meet next time.